Hey kids, do you like to go fast? Well, to be honest, I don't really like to go fast anymore nowadays. You know, I used to be able to play DJ Max at about 4 times speed, but nowadays it's like, I don't know if it's the age catching up with me, but even 3 times speed is starting to mess with my brain. I don't know, growing old is kind of scary. Everything feels like it moves in slow motion. But either way, even though I may not want to go fast, you know who does? The guy who's the mascot of the Doujin event for the company for whom I went to the event for this time. That didn't sound like it came out very right, but just pay that no mind. We're going fast, even though it doesn't really work with my brain, as you can see. Because yes, last month in February, I actually went to a Doujin event that was organized specifically for Sega IPs, which struck me as something a little bit more unique because usually when you think of Doujin events, or when I think of Doujin events, usually they tend to be very series specific. And what I mean by this is that usually it'll be for one specific IP. For example, even with Idol Masters, right? The typically what happens is that you have a event for each individual series within the IP, and then overall all of these different series that people who want to organize an event will realize that it's easier to come together and form an event that celebrates the series as a whole, and that's how you get the whole like IP specific events. But even then, events specifically for a game company or all of the game company's content is kind of rare in that sense. I mean, to be fair, Nintendo will probably sue you and actually call the cops on you for holding an event, so that might be why there isn't a Nintendo specific event. But even then, for other companies as well, you don't really see like specifically the Final Fantasy BL event where people go and talk about how they wish that Sephiroth and Cloud would just kill everyone and get together instead, right? You don't have anything like that. But for Sega, you actually do, and it was actually held last month with an event called Sega no Game or Sekaiichi. Or I guess you could say Sega's games are #1 in the world is the name of the event. A little bit, you know, elitist feeling maybe, but you can really tell that it's from people who really love Sega's games. So the thing I found interesting about this event as well is that a lot like with Uma Musume content in general, this event is safe for work content only. That means yes, you don't actually, or rather you're not allowed to release adult content at this event. And not only that, if you were actually a Sega employee and you showed them your work pass, they would actually let you into the event free. Frankly, I don't know if that's because they were planning to kidnap you and then like strip your body and use it for their new Sega alter to Sonic or something, but it sounds pretty cool actually being in a company big enough for this to actually happen. I believe that the Blue Archive event actually had something like this back during the anniversary period as well, where the developers of the game were actually allowed into the Doujin event free. And it kind of makes sense since you're basically making content about their thing, you're probably a fan. And not only that, you're basically living at the mercy of the company itself, so you kind of want to be nice about it. But yeah, seeing an event specifically for a whole company like this is quite rare. And I guess it's something that really only massive companies with a huge legacy behind them like Sega and Nintendo, or maybe even Square Enix might be able to do, purely because of the fact that they just have so many different games that they release across the year. I mean, when you think about it, Sega has like what, 4 business development divisions at this point. They're just so huge that they're just churning out all sorts of games all the time. So suffice to say, I did not know initially what I was going to see when I saw that they were having a Sega specific event. Part of me initially, before I heard that it was safe for work, thought it was gonna be like 90% people drawing Sonic Smart or something. But the fact that it was all ages and the fact that this is not an event in America made me feel like perhaps Sonic wouldn't be such a huge part of the event. For those who are wondering, the event this time around was also held in Otaku. Otaku. It's a ward called Ota, but it sounds like otaku instead, so haha, funny. While this is located within Tokyo, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it is somewhere at the middle point between Tokyo Station as well as Yokohama Station, which is great for me because it means that I can get to this event super fast in the span of about 1 hour and 10 minutes. Which is about the same as me going to Yokohama because this place has no express train. Suffering, yeah! But yeah, overall it was a different convention center from what I was used to seeing as well. So I was quite interested in seeing what the place would be like. And indeed, the convention center itself overall was fairly big. The event, I think there was something else going on the upper floors on the same day because there were a lot of people outside. But the Sega event was happening down in the basement instead. You know, the cool kid's crib that's hidden in the basement. Yeah, very cool. But overall, the event itself, actually, I did end up finding it to be quite interesting. If I'm not mistaken, there were about a total of 57 circles that were in attendance. Not the most massive number, especially when you consider that with things such as Ponycat and the Blue Archive Doujin events nowadays, those are hitting up to maybe 200 to 400 circles. So solo events for other IPs are getting pretty big as well, let alone for a massive company. But even so, I did actually find it to be pretty fun because while they didn't use the space completely for circles, they actually did use it for quite a bunch of other things as well. For instance, there was actually a free play corner in the event hall where someone had actually brought in all of their old Sega consoles, so you had stuff like the mentions kicking in. I need to check what consoles there were. Gonna go fast. Gonna go fast. What was the song again? Hey, I'm back. How you doing? As you can see, I'm kind of changed my clothes because it's actually the day after the initial part of this video because of the fact that it actually took me that long to find the clips of the event itself. Apparently somewhere along the way, I think I misplaced the clips or I deleted them because I found them within the equivalent of the mobile phones like recycle bin. I had to dig through the phones like deleted files and find the trash files and like get all of that out and check each of the individual files to find out which one it was. So that was a little bit scary. I actually thought that I would have to cancel this entire video because of this. But we pulled through like Dr. Eggman and the one movie where he danced with himself. I think. I don't know what happened in the movie. I didn't watch it. Either way, the two consoles that I saw there were the Dreamcast as well as the Sega Saturn. There were some others as well where they were basically using controllers, but one of it looked kind of like an Xbox 360, I think. It's basically all of the Sega games that were on other consoles as well. They actually had a little display for all of the model kits that people had brought to the event. Some of them even brought their own stands and the like to display all of it on. So the amount of content that was there, I would say, is quite interesting because you actually got to play games from some of Sega's old consoles. You had people displaying their model kits. You had the Shikishi corner that most of the other events have where people put up the art that they had drawn as well. And the music, they even had like a little like DJ area where they're just playing music in the event as well. Well, maybe not a DJ area, it's more like a soundboard, I guess, which I have to say, you know, I had not listened to some of like Sega's music in a long time. So listening to the Sonic music playing through that, I have to say like Sonic has some poppin' music, like it was pretty on fleek. Overall, there was just a lot to see in spite of the size of the event. Like, yeah, 57 circles, yeah, the area for all of these displays as well. It was maybe about half the size of the circle area, but overall, it was just interesting to see how this company had created so much over the years that you had people gathering, bringing things of all different genres, and all of it was just melding into one event where people were just enjoying the content produced by Sega. So when it comes to the Doujin itself, the area wasn't actually all Sonic. I feel like most people wouldn't be surprised because most people probably know that Sonic is just not as popular within Japan as he is in the rest of the world. He just doesn't have that same level of popularity. Some people will even go as far as to say that they actually kind of dislike Sonic in comparison to like the funny Italian plumber mushroom man. But even then, there were still quite a few Sonic circles. I would hazard that out of the 50 plus circles, maybe like 20% of them were for Sonic specifically. It was, I think there was some like Sonic BL going on there, but it was more of the like wholesome BL, I guess. And there were people also making Sonic accessories there. No Sonic True medallion, thankfully. Otherwise, I feel like someone may have gotten cursed during the event. Aside from that, I would say the larger part of what the other circles were, from my memory, were mostly for people who were just interested in all of the stuff that Sega had made over the years. Like, I did think there was one guy, and I do have his game or his CD right here. There's a guy who actually plays and speed runs a lot of Sega's old shoot 'em ups, and he just the weird thing is he actually has a YouTube channel, and the thing is that aside from those, he also sells DVDs of his walkthroughs as well as some of his speed run videos. So that's an interesting thing. I guess I've never seen people sell physical like speed run tutorials for games since like maybe no, I don't think I've seen anyone do it. Not even back in the days where people use cassette tapes have I ever seen someone actually do this. I know that people sent in speedruns to like the record labels in the West using like cassette tapes which they would record on and send it, but yeah, not in 2025, that is for sure. And even when it came to the doujins themselves as well, it might seem a little sus for those of you who know. This is like from the Sega Heart goes. The name also sounds like it might be a little weird, but trust me when I say that it's from the series of like the thing where they turn all of the different Sega consoles into cute goals. I guess there was a Neptune game about it as well. It goes through like some of these specs for some of the older consoles, as you can see here. It's just a lot of text of him explaining all of the specs as well as the history of the console. Like it even says here like what drive was used, what controller chip was used, and all of the really nitty gritty details along with the actual like official mascot character over here. And aside from that, you also do have illustrations as well as details for some of the older Sega titles that have been released as well. So everything from games released in the arcades all the way to some of the more modern games released on their own home consoles. I don't think there's anything from the more recent days, and this was in his most recent book, and the most recent game title that's in here, I think it's from like 2005. So it's really going through many of the retro game titles that were on all of the older consoles as well as in the arcades. And I find that to be pretty cool. He has an entire series of books that's going through this as well. Though, and you might have seen this in the video as well, there's actually quite a fair bit of open space for walking as well. Like, they actually did ensure that they left a decent amount of walking space between all of the circles so that it will be a lot easier for people to walk through as they browse everything. And I feel like that actually helps with making the event feel less overwhelming as well, since it's easier to move around and walk through all of the different circles to browse what they had on offer. There were quite a few circles for Phantasy Star Online as well, and I feel like those might have been an equal amount to Sonic, and then the rest were really just people who are really into the retro scene, who were there either with like all of the retro magazines that had been released over time, or just trying to release art books for some of the older titles that some of which I didn't even know exist until this event. But yeah, I guess one thing I just found kind of funny was that on the cover of the catalog for the event, they have all of these people on it, but I think the only one for whom I actually saw any thin books at all in the entire event was just for Sonic. I think there was someone who drew like actual Kiryu fan art for Mr. John Yakuza in here, and it looked kind of cool in the back page somewhere. Thankfully, no one goes to this event during inflation like King stuff, so it makes it a lot easier to show it. Like, you do see him in the pamphlet over here, but aside from that, like, I don't think I saw any of these guys at all, so that's kind of unfortunate. People say this guy kind of looks like me. Frankly, I don't know if that's true. Frankly, I wish my glasses could glow like that, because it would make a lot of like weird social interactions a lot less awkward, since people can't see when I'm not looking at them, if anything. Also, one other funny thing, I guess, and I couldn't really film it because it's the changing rooms themselves, is that the male cosplay changing room was basically just behind like 3 small little partitions within the room itself, and for the women, they actually had a full, completely separate room in a completely different part of the exhibition area for them to change it. So the idea of it is just kind of funny, because you do see like the standard like cross-dressing cosplay come out of the male cosplay dressing area, and it's just like yeah, I feel like the way they were trying to ensure people didn't peep was a little lacking, but you know, it's Japan, so people thankfully don't do stuff like that. But yeah, overall, this event didn't even really have an after party. Once it ended at 3:30, the event just completely ended, and there wasn't anything after that. It was just a cleanup, and then everyone went home. So there wasn't all too much to see after the fact, unlike some of the ones hosted by the community that does the Ponycat or some of the other bigger Doujin events within Tokyo. But I would say that it's an event that felt like it had a lot of heart in it, and it was just kind of entertaining to go to, partly because of the fact that there was just a lot more to see due to the legacy of the company that made all of the stuff. Also, there were alcoholic like refreshments, and they had a whole refreshment corner for people to get like snacks and food. That's not the reason why I'm talking about the refreshment corner. It's not because I went there to become a crippling alcoholic, although it was a lot of tempting. But yeah, aside from that, they also had a proper like rest area, so it really was an event fully built in with everything that you could want for an event that celebrates Sega as a company, I feel like. And because of the fact that it was family friendly, I feel like I saw a lot more people bringing their kids there. In a way, it reminded me of something like maybe Reitai Sai, but a lot smaller scale, because it is quite literally smaller scale, but also because it actually has that vibe of having a huge variety of different things within the event space itself. Frankly, I would say if you're just there to browse this event, I don't know if I would say it is like something that if you came from overseas, you would definitely want to go down for if you really love Sega, because it took like an hour plus to get there. And frankly, I feel like even then, unless you're going there to like talk and chat with random strangers the whole time, the event is something that you could really see everything that there is to see within like maybe an hour or two. if you wanted to stay longer to watch people play the games that they had over there for viewing, because they did have the person's like entire collection of like maybe like 30 plus games there as well for you to swap through and view and try. In that case, I see it as something that maybe there will be a lot more to do at the event, but otherwise, if you're going there for the fan created content, while there is some stuff, because of how varied the stuff that the company has made over the years is, in the end, even if you were to go there for the big mascot himself or Sonic stuff, it was still fairly limited. So overall, I wouldn't say that the Doujin stuff is the most comprehensive, but there is certainly something to find if you're really into stuff from Sega in general, and if you're someone from overseas who really likes Sonic and who wants to find like the Sonic fans in Japan, because they are quite limited in comparison, I feel like. This probably is a good event to go to find them. But yeah, overall that's all I have to share about the event. Thank you all for watching. It's not a very massive one, and there weren't even that many circles to begin with, so there wasn't as much for me to purchase there to begin with, and a lot of it was stuff like Fantasy Star online lore books or guidebooks, both of which I don't really know enough about to be able to make a judgment call on. So I don't know how cool that would be to someone who is into those stuff as well. But it was certainly was interesting to just be there and see the difference in the amount of stuff that was on display, both in terms of the fan-made content as well as all the displays as well as setups they had for you to enjoy some of the stuff that I feel like they feel makes the company's content so interesting as well. That and the music was pretty rad. I can't get over the fact that like the Sonic X theme was like the way it was. The lyrics kind of corny, but overall I found myself bopping to what like one of those Spry Kids hit back in the day. I need to stop saying that. It makes me feel like I end up looking older than I actually am. But that said, thank you all for watching. And thank you all for supporting the channel, both through watching the videos and to all the very cool people over here who support the channel by helping to fund some of the very silly antics that I do on this channel sometimes, including some of the pop-ish props that I buy for some of the other videos as well. But that's it. Until next time, take care and bye-bye.